Michael. Welcome to Chapter 10 SRC 550. So today we're going to talk about preparing and executing interviews. Okay, there are three parts of this, and the first part is the sources. In every time we want to do an interview or in engaging an interview, there are a few things that we must consider. One of it is the sources. Okay, so what can be called as the sources? Well, sources are the persons who have information that needed for a story or for the background. So usually the sources is a person who have the information that can be used by the reporters in order to write the story. Okay, so there are two types of sources. First is traditional sources. So traditional sources is those contacted through bids and assignment. For example, you are focusing on sport report. So your environment will be fulfilled by contacted by coaches, parents, athletes, clubs officials, fans, the doctors, the physios, trainers, former players, and everything like that. So if you're in the entertainment beat, so you are in music industry, for example, your contact person will be the composers, the artists, the musicians. So these we call as the traditional sources. Non-traditional sources is the non-human, which means that the origins of information are gathered from the journalism techniques. For example, you're using surveys, you're using polls, content analysis, you go for observation, field experiments, and which are not human resources. Okay. So the traditional sources, there are four of it. First, this is only focusing for sport reporting. We have first coach, second parents, third athletes, and number four camaraderie among reporters or friends among reporters. Okay. How are we going to cultivate and maintain the sources? First, we have to make sure that we make ourselves known, familiar. People must be familiar with us. So because with familiarity, it will breed or it will develop a good rapport. Okay, so reporters who have a good reputations and networking will have lots of sources and they will get lots of information. So this will be very useful for their story write-up. Number two, be pleasant. You have to cheer up. You cannot be arrogant. You have to be friendly. This will definitely create a good cooperation among the sources and also the reporters. Number three, you need to be very considerate. Newspaper deadlines will come in inconvenient time. So you have to make sure that you're not going to call your sources in a very odd hour. You have to prepare yourself. You have to work not a last minute worker. So this will definitely also bring up your rapport. Number four, you need to become a good listener. Don't force somebody to listen to your story, but you need to listen to their story. So be a good listener. You need to talk to the resources. So you need to listen to the resources so that you have lots of information gained. Okay. Do not ignore the underlings. The underlings mean that the person who have been around the situation. Okay. For example, assistant coach, and then you have friends among the athletes. So these are we call as underlings because they are not important sources, but somehow their notes or their story might be important for your story. Be straightforward, um, but you cannot compromise your ethical for professional standards. So if you want the source to be truthful with you, you also need to develop a good relationship with them. So just be straightforward and tell them what you need. Don't complicate things and don't manipulate the situations. Okay. Right. Number two. After we have known the sources, now we are going for the interview. So the interview. There are five journalist techniques for effective interviews. First, you need to do research for persons that you want to interview. Second, you need to scope out, or you need to prepare a good location for the interview. You have to make sure that the location is somewhere open but not so public, but you have to make sure that it is somewhere where you can have a very good privacy. Okay, write down the questions that you want to ask in advance. Okay, do not ask questions, or do not have spontaneous questions, because sometimes spontaneous question might cause you blurred, or might cause you an awkward situation where you don't know what to ask. So plan your question in advance. Use recording devices so that you can always engage in the conversations, and you don't have to write everything, and it won't be a distractions during the conversation. Okay, and number 5, transcribe your recordings so that you never miss anything good. Okay, so this is the 5 journalist techniques. Okay, this is also types of sports interview: depth interview, telephone, backgrounds interview, question and answer interview. This is the methods for information gathering, or how are we going to quote an information. First, we have direct quotations, which we have to state it exactly what the sources said in phrases or sentences. For example, like A mentioned that their team win because they have a gold medal player in their team. So you have to state that A mentioning that the team is winning because they have a gold medalist in their team. So exactly um, statement stated by the sources. Okay, number 2, indirect quotations, written without the quotations mark. Okay, because you might want to have a minor deviations towards the original statement. For example, team A is said they can be win because they have a gold medalist player, because this is not a directly statement from the sources, but it was indirect statement. Number 3, fragmentary quotations, which you combine a paraphrase and direct quotation. You put a direct quotations, but you paraphrase it into your own words, because you think that that one is a better statement to put it in your story. Okay, and then number 4, we have a dialogue quotation, which is quoted from 2 or more speakers, such as exchange between a coach and a player. So this is the methods of information gathering. Right, the last one, in preparing and executing interviews, we have the observation. Observation is um, Observation is an action where you watching someone or a situation in order to gain information. So observation requires a person to be very focused toward the situation or a person, because they are going to write, or they're going to gain the information only by observing. Okay, so how to do it? First, you need to determine who or what are you intend to observe. Number 2, when and where. And then number 3, you need to develop a guideline for you to use in order for you to do the observation. Observation is not an easy task. It is not something that can be learned in only 10 to 15 minutes, because as an observer, you need to be very invisible. You have to make sure that people doesn't know that you are actually observing them or observing the situation. Okay, number 4, you have to prepare a recording sheet, and number 5, you have to take some pictures in order for you to, it helps you in recalling the situations. And number 6, you need to practice the observation oftenly, because if not, you're not going to get to be a good observer. Okay, so that is all for preparing and executing an interviews. So I hope that everybody do understand, and everybody can use the guidelines and the methods stated for any interviews conducted. With that, I wish you all the best and see you in the next class. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.